Hi, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I thought it's a long time since I've done a Friday flashback, so I thought I'd do a little bit of a Friday flashback today. I'm also going to, after I finish recording this, I'm going to record another Christian Bible study, which you'll be able to find on my Christian YouTube channel once I've finished this one, or once I've posted this one up today. So, and that one's going to be on how to exercise your faith. Anyway, some of the things that I would like to flash back to today. First of all, let's start off with some music. I'm a, a hoarder come collector of music, audio tapes, vinyl records, 78 records, cassette tapes, all sorts of CDs, DVD, music, DVDs and whatever. So I thought on some of these things I might progressively introduce you to some of my favorite music. And of course, I was a baby boomer and grew up in the 50s and the 60s as a teenager. So a lot of my music is influenced by that era. So I'm just going to share about three 45s I've got here, just to point them to you. I might be able to find a link to put underneath in the the credits underneath this post on my YouTube channel, so you can actually listen to these ones I'm talking about, because I'm not going to play them because I don't have the copyright to be able to play these things live. I'd love to be able to do that because I've got such a huge collection here. So anyway, without further ado, one of my favorite genres in music is novelty records. And I've got compilation novelty records, vinyl LPs, and individual collections of the different artists over the years. I remember some years ago I had a whole collection of them, 45s, and a friend of mine was quite interested in them, and he said, "Can I borrow them?" And I said, "Yes." And he took them home with him, and then eventually got them back, and he had left them in the back window of his car, and some of them were buckled beyond being able to be used. So that was pretty disappointing, because some of those were quite collector's items, those ones, like I think Marty Allen and Steve Rossi, the Punch Drunk Fighter, was one of my favourites, and that got warped in the sun. Anyway, three I've got here to share today, two by the same artist. Novelty records. My one of my favourites, of course, is Ray Stevens, and my first memory of Ray Stevens was I Had the Arab. I think that was his first big hit, and then he had several others after that. He also sang some serious songs as well, country sort of type ballad type songs, Mr. Businessman and things like that. But his forte was novelty records. So this one here was Guitars Ann. I'll just show it to you there on Monument Records, Guitars Ann. And I won't sing it to you. I might try and find a link to show it to you. And on the back side of that was Bagpipes, That's My Bag. He used to have some strange things on the backs of his records as well. Just need to get rid of that thing there on the screen. Yeah, so yeah, he had some interesting things on the backs of his records. I remember one of them. I can't remember what was on the A side, but on the B side, he had Bubblegum the Bubble Dancer. That was a bit different. And he was quite irreverent most of the time. The other one that I really like, and I like most of his records, and he's got his own YouTube channel, I think, and you can see lots of his material there. This one here. Remember this one? Freddy Feelgood and his funky little five-piece band. I remember years ago when I used to play football, the football club I was with, they did a review one year at the club rooms, and they had some of the prominent footballers in the A grade team. This was the West Adelaide Football Club back in the day. Prominent uh, players in the A grade team, and it was headed up by Johnny Ryan. Some of you might remember. He played the part of Freddie Feelgood in this, and they mimed the record Freddie Feelgood and pretended they were the band. So I'll try and put a link to Freddie Feelgood and his funky little five-piece band, one of my favourite Ray Stevens records. And then the man that everyone used to love back in those days was very, very different in his country singer, ballad singer, uh, huge big vocal range. I'm not talking about Gene Pitney. I'm a big fan of Gene Pitney. I've got lots of his material, but the other one there that was very popular back then, and we saw him twice in concert, I think, in Adelaide when he came to Adelaide, and that was the late great Roy Orbison. And this one is one of his lesser known ones. This is Southbound Jericho Parkway. Most records back in the day used to only go from 2.5 to 3 minutes long. This particular one here goes for 7 minutes, Southbound Jericho Parkway. And typical Roy Orbison sound, you know, there are people who've impersonated him and tried to get that sound over the years, and some of them aren't too bad, tribute artists, but there's nothing like listening to Roy Orbison and his big hits, you know, like In Dreams and Pretty Woman and all those sort of things. And Leah was one of my favourites. So, yeah, he was amazing. So I'm a big fan of Roy Orbison, and it was tragically that he died quite a young age of a heart attack, I think it was, and had a tragic life. Lost a wife, one of his wives in an accident, I think, and one or two of his kids were burnt in a fire, killed in a fire, I think, or something like that. Anyway, so that's a bit of a flashback to some of the music that I'm talking about today. The other thing is that sometimes I do a flashback on what do I do with that one there now? Here it is, here. Quite often I do flashbacks, or have done in the past, of flashbacks from photography magazines. But I also have a good collection which I inherited from someone else, from probably more than one group of people, on Australian birds. This one is Australian bird life here. And there's a picture of the night parrot on the front there, which was thought to be extinct for many years, although they used to occasionally find run over birds on the roads out in the outback, and eventually it was rediscovered a few years ago, the night parrot, very similar to the ground parrot, I think it is, although the ground parrot is not a night parrot, but they look very much the same. But Australian bird life, Australia has many birds, of course, and I'm a keen bird watcher and bird photographer. And this was volume 2, number 3, September 2013, from the editor. I'll just give you some of the titles here. Back in the day, Trouble at a Bird Lovers Camp, Birds in Focus, Everybody Loves Good Neighbours, Celebrating Our Common Birds by Sean Dooley. Sean Dooley's been involved in bird life in Australia for many years, and he wrote a famous book that became a bestseller called The Big Twitch. He took a year off and went around Australia to see how many birds he could twitch. And so I have actually corresponded with him on my channel. You'll find there's a video of pink cockatoos, Major Mitchell cockatoos, over on the road on the road towards Broken Hill. I think it's the Barrier Highway, or no, the Silver City Highway. And my wife and I were travelling back along there one day, and we saw these Major Mitchell cockatoos picking paddy melons, yellow melons about that big, up from the side of the road, flying up into a tree and eating them up there, or eating the seeds out of them. And we sat there for about half an hour taking video of these Major Mitchell cockatoos. So I'll put a link underneath, because that's one of my most looked at videos. I did it years ago, the ones on these Major Mitchells. And I sent that to Sean Dooley, and he had a look at it, and he was quite impressed. And not too many people, I think, have ever recorded that. So Sean Dooley, he's a Mr. Birds, I suppose, in Australia in some ways. And then the other lady who's a prolific author on birds is Penny Olsen. And she's an academically qualified person, and I've got several of her books over there as well. And she did a good one on the night parrot, actually. And so she had here a lament, The Sad History of the Orange-Bellied Parrot. Parrots in Peril by Samantha Vine and Sean Dooley. The Bird Life Interview by Bill Oddie. Do you remember who Bill Oddie was? He was part of The Goodies, which was a popular British comedy TV program. And I'll just read. This is an interview that Australian BirdLife. These magazines change their names over the years, and the organisation changes a little bit. But he did an interview with BirdLife back in this actual edition here, and he's a keen bird watcher. And so I'll just read out what it says about here. Bill Oddie is a household name in Australia thanks to continual repeats of the goodies on television throughout the 70s and 80s. In his native Britain, he is equally as well known for his nature documentaries, such as Birding with Bill Oddie Goes Wild, and Spring Watch. He has also gained a reputation for being a little bit grumpy. But when Australian BirdLife caught up with Bill at BirdLife Australia's Glue Pot Reserve during a break in his recent Australian tour, I've been there, it's a good spot, and I've got probably some things I could maybe link to you on this channel about Glue Pot. During a break in his recent Australian tour, he was totally charming in spite of the fact that the first major rains in several months had restricted access to much of the reserve, and the cold weather had seen many of Glue Pot's threatened species so quiet. Bill was extremely affable and upbeat, and it's hard not to be at a place like Glue Pot. I can imagine what it was like when it was wet, because it's called Glue Pot because some of those tracks out in the Mallee area, that's in South Australia, Glue Pot Station, Glue Pot Bird Reserve, get very muddy when you're out travelling if it rains. And my late father-in-law, Dud Farraker, as soon as it looked like rain and we were out in the bush, he said, we better get home. We don't want to get stuck in one of these mud puddles in these roads. We'll get bogged. And you can. Anyway, I don't know whether I can share a little bit of this. Here's a question from Australian BirdLife. We'll just read out a couple of his answers here. This is Australian BirdLife. Do you ever find when you are filming and performing that you take inspiration from birds or their behaviour for any of your characters or physical comedy? Bill Oddie said, yes, I suppose I do actually. Within the Goodies program, I was nearly always the instigator of immense cruelty to birds and animals, which were not real, of course. I shouldn't admit this, though. In the bush in Australia, maybe no one will ever find out, but I've always found it quite funny, this kind of brutality. I remember training the dodo to fly. I particularly enjoyed that. I don't remember seeing that. Maybe that's an episode you can look up. I won't go on to say what else he said about that, and might ruin your thoughts about Bill Oddie, but he's a funny man. And then he said, I saw a bird then, blimey. Bill turns his attention to a brown tree creeper and spends time comparing it to the white-browed tree creeper he had seen earlier. Satisfied with his view, he returns to the topic of his career. I'll just show you, there's a picture of Bill Oddie there. Let's bring that up in close. When this article was done out at Glue Pot Station. Yeah, bring it up there, a bit close there. So there are quite a few people who've been famous actors or authors or whatever that are very much into bird watching as well. So I'm going to stop there, and I hope you found that interesting, and I'll try and put a few links underneath, and then after I've finished this, I'm going to do this Bible study. I'm going to put this on my Christian channel, so for those who are interested in my Christian articles and Bible studies, this one is called How to Exercise Faith, and it's very in-depth, and it may be just the thing to help someone at this particular point in their life. I'm not going to put on this main channel, but I'll put a link out underneath when I put that one up on my Christian channel. So thanks for watching. Like if you like, and subscribe if you wish, and I'll see you next time. I haven't really got back into doing too much this year, but I'll be doing a little bit from time to time. So I'll catch you later on. See ya.